that it was the, quote, conservative forces, those who wanted to keep things as they were. And as you know, in modern day America, conservative forces aren't saying we want to keep things as they are. So again, set aside conservative liberal thinking of current days. He says, but conservative forces, those who wanted to keep things as they were, in every instance, were the most bitter opponents of the prophets and their mission for justice. The words of the prophets are always calls to transform the world, to change the social order as it presently exists. Isaiah begins his prophecy in the first chapter by speaking to the rulers of Israel in the 8th century these words, Isaiah 1, 16 and 17. Cease to do evil, learn to do good, seek justice, rescue the oppressed. Sounds simple. The language of the prophets is probably what most strikes us today. They spoke most often in poetry. Thus, consider these words from Isaiah in the 43rd chapter of the 19th verse. Behold, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? I will make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. Isaiah is telling us that God is challenging us to muster sufficient theological imagination to see how divine purpose is unfolding in ordinary events in the world. What is this new thing that God is about to do? It's informative as well as interesting that 2nd Isaiah does not try to foretell what God will be doing. Rather, Isaiah prods the attention of his audience backward into images of the way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. Isaiah speaks to a people like us, a people in Babylon, who live in the midst of a secular pagan culture which promises that its gods can give prosperity and success and wealth and happiness. But the God of Israel is known through memory as well as hope. And the God of Israel scorns the worldly nostalgia that's so different from biblical memory. When I was a little boy, my father pastored 4 churches in a 600 square mile parish in central Missouri. One year, the Missouri Annual Conference, the Missouri West Annual Conference as it was known then, it was 2 conferences, decided that since it was basically a town and country conference, it ought to elect as one of its lay delegates to General Conference a farmer. As God's providence would have it, they elected an old farmer named Broadus W. Wiley, who was a member of one of my dad's local churches. He went to the 1964 General Conference, our denomination's premier rule-making, policy-deciding body. Now, B.W. Wiley was the town character in Houstonia, Missouri, where we lived. It's a very small town, about 200 people, so they only had room for one character. B.W. Wiley was a good Methodist. It's kind of a redundancy, isn't it? And he loved the church, both local and annual conference in general. So when he returned from General Conference, the chair of the official board, as it was known in those days, asked Mr. Wiley to report on anything he'd learned as a delegate to General Conference. Looking around the room on that